The Himalayas. This vast barrier of rocks and ice, situated in the northern part of India, is so colossal that it shapes the world's climate. From the earliest human civilizations, this place was considered to be a sacred place. The home of the gods, an ancient culture. The Himalayas is also known to be the abode of eternal snow. Rapid increases in global temperatures and developmental projects are causing massive threats to the higher Himalayan regions. In the trans-Himalayan landscape, people have always lived with special risks, but new risks are inflaming. Lahaul Spiti is a district in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh. This area has a sparse distribution of human population, with a density of 2 inhabitants per square kilometre, separated into 2 regions, Lahaul and Spiti. This steep and rugged mountainous region is home to many elusive species. But due to anthropogenic disturbance and climate change, this area is now one of high conservation importance. Along with the harsh climate conditions, life is hard for both humans and wildlife. Conflicts are inevitable. These harsh climate conditions only allow for the growing of unique vegetation. Scattered tufts of hardy grasses and shrubs that fill the dietary requirements of herbivore species. People of Lahaul and Spiti live in very close relationship to wild animals. Ungulates like ibex and blue sheep often graze around villages. The brown bear and snow leopard can often be seen in human-dominated areas.
कई बार इस टॉप पे दिखता है, वो यहाँ से हमेशा घर को देखते रहता है। पिछले साल की बात बता दूँ सर, तो पिछले साल घर में क्या हुआ था, एक स्नो लेपर्ड जो है, जो पिछले साइड का जो विंडो है, वहाँ से वो विंडो थोड़ा ढीला था और स्नो लेपर्ड अंदर आ गई और हमें पता नहीं चला। मॉम सुबह कमरे में दूध लेने गई, दूसरे कमरे में दूध रखा हुआ था और जैसे ही मॉम ने एंट्री किया, सडनली आगे चारपाई के ऊपर स्नो लेपर्ड बैठा हुआ। मॉम सीधा डर गई और मॉम ने चिल्लाना शुरू कर दिया। तो फर्स्ट टाइम उसने जो नीचे वाला विंडो है, वहाँ सीधा जंप मारने की कोशिश किया, तो और विंडो उसके सर से टकराया। तो विंडो टूटा नहीं क्योंकि वो लकड़ी को लगा था। फिर उस दूसरी बार उसने इधर उधर देखा और सीधा जहाँ से आया था वहीं से निकल गया। वैसे हमारे साथ काफ़ी फ्रेंडली भी है क्योंकि हमारे साथ अटैचमेंट ज़्यादा है, आता रहता है घर में।
Though not every story is a happy story.
यहाँ स्नो लेपर्ड भी बहुत होते हैं और भेड़िया भी होते हैं। हमारी जो है रोजी धंधा जो है बैल बकरी आग और गाय भैंस से होते हैं, वो काफ़ी हमारा नुकसान करता है। तो ये स्नो लेपर्ड वगैरह आदमी को तो अटैक नहीं करते हैं, तो पशुओं को तो करते हैं। तो कभी तो हमारे खुद में भी घुस जाते हैं, खुद में घुस के बैल बकरे रात को ख़त्म करके निकल जाते हैं।
As a result, human-wildlife conflict has increased. Where the snow leopard preys on the livestock, the brown bear does so on the agricultural land.
पिछले साल तो सबका गया, एक का नहीं सबका, सारे का फिर पेड़ फूट के खत्म हो गया था पिछले साल।
कुछ भी नहीं रख रहे अब, जैसे कि दालें हैं, फ्रास्पिन वगैरह, राजमा वगैरह हैं, अब ये खाली पहले तो उसमें फूल आने शुरू होते हैं, फूल समेत वो पत्ते समेत पहले रख देता है, बीच में कुछ पौधे कामयाब होते हैं तो वो बच गया तो बाद में उसमें फलियाँ लगने शुरू होते, वो फलियाँ समेत रख दे, करें क्या? आप पाबंदी है, मानने के लिए इनकार है, उसका गवर्नमेंट क्लेम देगा। फसलों के नुकसान होने जा रहा है बांदरों से, रीछ और भालू से। ये फॉरेस्ट वालों ने अपने ऊपर लिया है कि इसका हम मुआवजा देंगे, आपका फसलों का जो नुकसान होगा उसका हम मुआवजा देंगे।
Locals are generally concerned about wildlife conservation due to religious faith, but living so close to the animals comes at a price for them. On the other hand, there are people like Tenzin Dorji, who found their way into eco-tourism.
पहले तो लोगों को कुछ काम नहीं होता था, विंटर में घर में बैठे रहते थे, तो अब तो इनकी विंटर टूरिज़्म होने की वजह से काफ़ी लोगों को फ़ायदा भी हो रहा है। जैसे कि लोग दिन में तो लोग पोर्टर बन के स्नो लेपर्ड के लिए चलते हैं, जो टूरिस्ट आते हैं उनके साथ।
In the last few years, thanks to conservation efforts, sightings of the elusive snow leopard have increased in the valley, which has led to drastic growth in ecotourism.
Tourism, of course, on the other hand, is good. People are saying we need tourism. We need people because tourism can bring some different thoughts and for local people, good money.
Increases in unsustainable tourism and infrastructure developments are now leading to habitat destruction and fragmentation. Because of the fragile ecosystem, associated threats such as climate change are now more noticeable than ever.
ना पहले तो 5-5, 6-6 फुट गिरते थे और आजकल तो कुल मिला के भी तो 5-6 फुट नहीं गिरता है बर्फ।
बर्फ बहुत कम हो गई पहले बहुत ज़्यादा बर्फ पड़ता था तो लोगों को आना जाना मुश्किल हो जाता था। आजकल तो उतना ज़्यादा बर्फ पहले से तो बहुत कम पड़ रही है।
मौसम चेंज होने के कारण से तो ये मटर भी उगने लगे और मटर से हमारे को नकदी फसल मिलते हैं, नकदी फसल है। पहले तो हमारे गांव में जौ ही आते हैं, जौ अकेले आते हैं, अब मटर भी आने लगे। तो अब थोड़ा मौसम चेंज हो गया, गर्मी आ गया, इसलिए से थोड़ा फसल में भी वो है, पैदावार ज़्यादा आता है।
However, a 2.5 times growth in the human population was observed from 1901 to 2001. But in the recent past, a sudden influx of unsustainable tourism has introduced new complications to the life of local residents. Due to terrain complexity and harsh climate conditions, most habitats are inaccessible and poorly explored in terms of biodiversity assessment, human-wildlife conflict, and mitigation measures. One team is trying to evaluate and analyze the problem. A team of researchers from the Zoological Survey of India.
ZSI is one of the premier institutions in India, working under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. It has already completed more than 103 years of its service to the nation. primarily to inventorize entire species of animals in the country.
We are working on the conservation of threatened vertebrates in the Indian Himalayan region. In this project, we have 4 or 5 major goals to achieve within the time frame. First is to assess and monitor the threatened vertebrate species in the Indian Himalayan region. Second is to assess the population viability of some selected species which is found in the Lahaul Spiti, such as snow leopard, brown bear, ibex, blue sheep, and some musk deer. These are the 4 to 5 global conservation priority species. So we have to analyze their population viability and suggest the long-term conservation strategy for these species. Some techniques and tools we are following, such as camera trapping. First, we are placing the camera trap at the different places, different habitat of the species, and these camera trapping will enable us to understand where the species are found. We also collect the non-invasive samples, cats or fecal samples, which is not identifiable in the field. So we take them as the evidences, and further we process in the laboratory based on the DNA-based identification.
The primary objective behind collection of these species to first assess the species diversity. So what we are doing, we are undertaking the universal marker analysis. We are identifying the species from the feces. And once we identify those species, we use these identified species for generating population genetics of the selected species. This cutting edge of tools, by using the conservation genetics and genomics, will pave the path forward in understanding the species demography, species divergence, evolutions, and the overall genetic makeup of the threatened species in Indian Himalayas.
Next is our aim is to understand the conflict the entire Himalayan region. There is the problem on the conflict with the snow leopard, with the brown bear. In the Lahaul and Spiti, there are several agricultural land and other lands are being destroyed or depredated by the brown bear. Third is to capacity building. Capacity building, under this we will train the forest department staff to train them how to monitor the mammalian species in the Indian Himalayan region, how to place the camera traps, how to collect the evidences for the animal presence in the Lahaul Spiti. Involving them and giving them their training will be helpful to us to make solid conservation plans for these species. We are also developing the climate change models and predicting the future distribution of the species, because this trans-Himalayan landscape or entire Himalayan landscape is highly fragile and sensitive to any kind of anthropogenic and the climatic change.
We are basically working on climate change models. As we all know that climate change is impacting most of the species which are living in vulnerable ecosystems like Himalayan regions. So after getting the field locations or the field survey data, we are building different kinds of machine learning and artificial intelligence model to see which are those areas where the species are getting most affected.
Climate change is such a problem which is well studied throughout the globe, and it is established that animals are reacting to this particular phenomena, and in the recent past climate vagaries have increased, and one of the most prominent impact of climate change on the animal is that animals are shifting their distribution ranges, and of course they are also losing the habitats in the scenario. And based on our predictions, we can say there are many species which will be shifted from one area to other area, and also what we saw that many of them are going to lose much of their distribution range in coming scenario because of the climate change and global warming. The National Mission of Himalayan Study is such a program which is giving a lot of funding opportunities for research projects working in Himalayas, and I would thanks to Ministry of Environment and Forest for providing such opportunities to researchers like us who is interested to work in Himalayas for conservation of animals and plants, and also for the well-being of local communities which are living in the resource-poor landscapes.
All across our planet, the climate is changing. In the high Himalayas, it appears to be changing rapidly. These changes will affect animals as well as humans, and they will have to adapt. But all of this requires collaborative actions between government agencies and local communities. But there is no goal more important than coexistence.
Buddha Shachamani keep teaching. We have this kind of long, this kind of thick vellums, 108 vellums. All the text you check from the upper to down, there's no single words to harm animals, to harm people. Compassion, love, bodhicitta, human being, animal, all the sentient beings.